Welcome back to Off the Record. My name is Strider Bigler, and we're breaking down the controversial internet persona that is Dean Withers, and we're going to explain why he's not exactly what he appears on screen. So Dean Withers is a popular political commentator who rose to prominence in the last few years, but his sketchy past exposing his tendency to go where the money takes him and his disastrous On F America tour has left Dean's future in the space a mystery.
Recently, a lot of things have been posted all over the internet about how, like, when I was younger, like, I would say slurs.
I think it's fucking ridiculous for your... I mean, you know what? I think it's fucking ridiculous for you, a white woman, to tell me, a black woman who has done several organizations for black communities, for people of color, for houseless people, houseless youth, just the youth, about me not knowing anything about organization.
You know, I recognize that, you know, like when I was 14, like saying the N-word, that was like really bad.
Yeah, Destiny, do you feel like I'm running from you right now?
I do feel like you're running.
That you have like definitely some takes that I think are like pretty deplorable.
Was that somebody had reached out to me, an ex-employee of Z's, 2 weeks before the event in Texas, and informed me that she had defrauded previous employees, and I just swept it under the rug, and I stayed silent about it and kept it as a secret.
At home, sitting on your asses, I just took a private jet out to LA with $1 million in this rental passenger seats in a Coach duffel bag. Couple grand in the lap, I'm about to go drop it at Louis Vuitton. Living my dream life. What are you doing? Nothing.
But let's give Dean some background. Dean has built up a loyal cult following after featuring on the immensely popular show Jubilees Surrounded, with the main guest being Charlie Kirk. The popularity of that video, there were some viral moments, and Kirk heaping praises on Dean for his debating style was what led many to be drawn to him.
Actually, no. So first of all, I'd like to refine our terms. I have 2 points to bring up after that, though.
Again, I thought he was actually a really sweet kid when I met him. I think it's totally wrong.
And he represented a pretty large hole in the Democratic Party. Young men have been increasingly moving conservative, so the space was in desperate need of a new face. It seemed like Dean represented that, but a less than desirable past has started to uncover the reality of who he is behind the screen. Dean Withers follows where the money is. Back in 2022, Withers launched something called the E-Rich Lifestyle, a so-called online university promising to teach you how to get rich quick. Think influencer management, crypto trading, and big online bucks. Sounds flashy, right? Well, it was a total scam. Withers sold this program hard on TikTok and Telegram, hyping it as a rival to Andrew Tate's Hustlers University. He charged $250 for an ebook that he claimed he spent $8,750 making. And then he ran a private Telegram channel with 244 subscribers. He was seen on camera bragging about boarding a private jet with $1 million in a duffel bag, telling viewers to join his program for the same lifestyle. But there's no evidence that this university was legit. No accreditation, no real curriculum, just big promises and an even bigger price tag. So why is that harmful? Well, it's just pure deception. Withers targeted young, impressionable followers, some barely out of high school, dangling dreams of wealth with no substance to back it up. People paid hundreds of dollars, maybe even more, for a program that delivered nothing but hype. And when the program flopped, well, Withers said it was a failed marketing ploy, but he didn't confirm refunding anyone. That's money out of people's pockets, people who trusted him. Dean exploited trust. His TikTok fame gave him a platform to reach kids and young adults desperate for a way out of financial struggles. By flashing private jets and fake millions, he sold a fantasy that, regardless of how much damage it actually did, had the potential to harm and scam real people. Now, Withers has since moved on to political commentary and has built a liberal fan base on the back of a compassionate, educated persona. Of course, we should just believe that this kid completely flipped his script within just a few years and is now a devout progressive. Come on. The reality is he's likely doing this in the pursuit of money. While these claims are unsubstantiated because we have no way to tell the inner workings of his mind, what is more likely is that Dean has shown some business sense. He tried to latch on to the online course model that was so popular in the early 2020s. He even admitted that was a failure. So he course corrected. He saw a void in the market, shifting his strategy to fill the role as a masculine voice in Gen Z politics, taking after the strategies of Charlie Kirk. Dean, to his credit, is always willing to debate, which is commendable in this day and age. Still not convinced he's a bad dude yet? Well, Dean Withers has been accused of lying about his college enrollment. Last December, in a New York Times article, Withers described as a 20-year-old liberal content creator who debates conservatives online. The article implied he was not actively enrolled in college at the time, despite his earlier claims. Withers claimed to be in college to avoid conservative critics using his lack of a formal education as a gotcha in debates. It continues his pattern of dishonesty. Dean at the time was clearly not making millions. He wasn't selling a course worth anywhere near $280. And he wasn't in college. So what the hell was he doing? Well, his history would suggest that what he does in private isn't a good look. His repeated use of slurs hurled at LGBTQ people and people of color at the time were unacceptable and look even worse now. I'm not going to repeat what he said out loud, but here are the screenshots of the language he used against other people, and he admitted that these were him and these were mistakes by him. And I'm not here to be the morality police on anybody's language, and I don't think I need to. The way he continuously contradicts himself, being the first to judge other people's morality when he had no sense of it just 3 years ago. It's unbelievable what he's been able to get away with. Goes to show that when people like you, they will make any excuse as to why your sins should be forgiven. But if you're on their list of people they deem as bad, then there's nothing you can do to convince them you're good. Let's use Charlie Kirk as an example. Charlie is someone Dean is obsessed with. He follows him around at college campuses, begging to speak with him and demanding to be allowed to cut the line like a child. Well, Dean's fan base would have you believe that Charlie Kirk is one of the worst human beings on the face of this planet. But Charlie has no scandals, no history of mistreating anyone. He just has controversial opinions and isn't afraid to spread them. While people like Dean have a history of switching up at the sight of money. But why should anyone believe he's changed? Now let's talk about his Un-F America tour, the nail in the coffin of Dean's credibility. He isn't going anywhere, but his future as a real voice in the industry is definitely limited. He can't organize anything. And this is the problem with the narratives that people like Dean push. When you pander to the lowest common denominator, or in this case, the most oppressed person, they will be able to dominate the narrative. When you subscribe to this religion of oppressor oppressed, the person who society deems as the most oppressed in the situation has all the power. They're able to levy accusations and don't have to substantiate them. The person with more money or power or privilege is bad, regardless of what you believe, what you stand for, or how ethically you receive that wealth or power. People will hate you. And this is what happened to our friend Dean Withers. He was accused by a creator named Julie of essentially promoting racism with the way that the tour was set up. Now, I couldn't really find any information on Julie, which is interesting because it seemed like she expected to be one of the voices of color that was promoted through this tour, but I can't find anything on her. So if anybody could help me out on that, that would be great. But Becca Day was a creator that was supposed to be promoted through this event. But apparently, Dean Withers, who has 3 times the amount of followers, got too much microphone time, according to Julie. Dean, who was the biggest figure of the event, was not supposed to dominate the time on air. Alright, whatever. Regardless, the point is Dean has attached himself to the losing side, but he likely doesn't care. He has captured what he has been chasing this whole time, money and fame. Good for him. But Dean, don't spend any time lecturing people on morality. You're not qualified. He loves to make comparisons to Donald Trump and say that the reason he would never vote Trump for president is because he has a murky moral history. Now, Dean, you're in the exact same boat. So Dean needs to get off his high horse and understand that he hasn't lived a perfect life. He needs to stop levying accusations at everybody else and continue to take accountability for his actions. It's unacceptable, the things that he's done, scamming, calling people slurs, and just lying about pretty basic things. Dean, if you want to continue to build an audience that trusts you, you got to tell the truth. Not to mention the fact that half of his points are lies. Go on to a video where he talks about economics and look up any of the figures he uses. Half of them are false, made up. They're not anywhere on the internet. There's not even fake articles peddling those lies. Just made up in his mind to prove a point. What's up? It's me in post, and I'm assuming that someone's going to come out and say, Strider, you didn't provide any evidence for these claims. So I'm going to bring some evidence for you guys here. This is a video of Dean Withers trying to convince us that mass deportations are bad. Look, he just makes up figures for the entire video.
And this leads us to our next fact, which is that undocumented immigrants contribute $400 to $500 billion to the American GDP every single year.
When I saw this video for the first time a couple weeks ago and I heard that number, I said, there's no way that can be true. And I looked it up and of course, it's not true. There's not a single study out there that says that they contribute $500 billion to the GDP. Now, there are some studies that might suggest that total immigration, which would include undocumented alongside legal migrants, but that's not the number he's citing here, just a made-up number.
And now that I've demonstrated to you that mass deportation would weaken the American economy, consider this. The weaker our economy is, the higher level of poverty we have. And the more poverty we have, the more crime we have. So in other words, mass deportation will literally lead to more crime.
All right, man, this is just a dumb argument. More poverty equals more crime, sure, but is there any evidence to suggest that removing illegal immigrants from this economy will actually lead to more poverty? What it's actually going to do is make America safer. 90% of fentanyl is seized at the southwest border. That's a majority of fentanyl. And there's around 84,000 fentanyl deaths per year. The chemicals to produce fentanyl are made in China and sent to Mexico in order to kill Americans. And we see direct correlation between immigration numbers and the rise of fentanyl overdoses in the United States. This is about keeping America safer. And once again, Dean is lying and grifting, trying to prove a point. So Dean, let's stop the act. Let's stop pretending like you're some changed man. You haven't changed anything. But that's all I got for you guys today. My name is Strider Bigler with Off the Record. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please subscribe.